So it's my pleasure to introduce to you our lunch keynote speaker this afternoon. Mr. Kahle Charles is the Executive Director of Curriculum Instruction for St. Vrain's Valley School in Longmont, Colorado. So we are excited for him to come and share his story of what's going on in St. Vrain's and why they are so recognized in the state of Colorado and nationally for their work for transitioning to digital. So Kahle, come on up and let's give him a warm welcome.
Everybody stand up for a minute. Stand up. You remember that rope in your elementary school? Imagine it's right here. And we're going to climb the rope. So we're going to reach up and climb that rope a little bit, guys, without knocking over your iced tea and everything. Because we know that when this goes to sleep, this goes to sleep, right? We want to have those movements in education. So thank you for that. And now I can tell my wife I made 300 people stand up. So yeah. I want to start with a question. I want you to think about this. What are you afraid of? What causes you to break out in a sweat, to have a gut-wrenching fear? You can't sleep. You maybe put something off. Yeah, I can see some of you went there already. You're thinking, great, this dude just from Colorado just gave us indigestion. Wonderful. You know, we're only born with two fears. And spiders aren't one of them. Just saying. Two fears that we're born with. The first is the fear of falling. We all have that innate in us. We have a fear of falling, and the second is of loud noises. So that's the only fears we have that we're born with. So all of the fears that we have, and our staff have, and our schools have, we've learned along the way. It's either through a bad event in our childhood, it's through imagination. It's through a whole host of events. Personally, I'm afraid of my wife. But when we think about educational redesign, we need to plan for that for our staff. Because we're asking them to change practice that dates back for hundreds and hundreds of years, literally. It goes back to Western Europe and the university model that we've adopted. And they have a fear of failure. What if it doesn't go right? What if I don't have the same scores on the state assessment? What if my evaluation doesn't turn out right? What if I get emails from parents complaining about the way I have my classroom, that it's a flipped classroom, that I'm not using a textbook, that I'm not standing up in the front of the classroom lecturing? So it behooves us as educational leaders to really start and get people out of their comfort zone, and we know this is where the magic happens. Think of the things you've done personally where you've taken chances. And you've gotten into that really cool place because you took a chance. Now, I'd say it has to be really well planned. There has to be lots of tools to go along with it. But this is really what we want people to do. We want them to get out of their comfort zones for our students, because our students deserve a better educational experience. The first starts with vision. I think this has been talked about a lot. But make sure that when you start the conversation about educational redesign, you look at your vision piece. That is so crucial as we go through this. We come back to our vision again and again and again. We developed it collaboratively with our staff, with students, and that's something different for a lot of school districts, with our community members, with parents, so that we had ownership, more than buy-in, ownership of our vision. Now, many of you have seen this before. It comes from Simon Sinek. In fact, Dr. Mattingly from Denton was showing this earlier in the day. Start with your why. Figure out your purpose. What do you want to be as a school district? And really get that ingrained. And then you can get to the what and the how. And the what's very important, the how is very important. How do you do what you do? But if you've got a clearly defined purpose, a vision, and a why, then you can go into your action plans, your incentives. But if you go right towards action plan, you're going to miss it because you're going to get pushback. Oh, yeah, everybody knows about the pushback. But if you're so ingrained, if you're so impassioned about what you want to do for the betterment of our students, it's easy. It's easy. And you can show the people that have questions, that may not like the way things are going, either from staff perspective, parent perspective, community perspective. You can give them the rationale as to why. And it's been our experience that this really has been very beneficial to get those people into our system. When you think about establishing a vision and a why, you need to do a needs assessment. This is congruent with some of the things that the Learning Council has been publishing for years. For us, it was called a comprehensive assessment for district improvement. We started this journey, and this is another point I want to make, about 12 years ago. This isn't something that we just did the last 2 or 3 years. We started this back in 2006, 2007. And we invited an organization into our district because we didn't like the things that were going on. And we said, help us out. And I was a principal at the time. And they came in and they took out the white glove and they looked at everything. They interviewed all the staff, students, across the district, not just in my school. Principals, community members, compiled all this data. And when they brought the data together, here's basically what they said about our district. We were a district of schools, not a school district. That hurt, that stung. I gotta tell you, I was pretty proud of the things that we are doing in my little elementary school. But what we decided is that we didn't have a systems approach. It was based upon, were you in a rich neighborhood? Could you get money from your PTO? Did you have a good leader? Kind of those type of factors. So one of the things that we decided out of this review is that we had to get a laser light focus on some things. We came up with 5 priorities, and they all fit under the umbrella of becoming a system. We really wanted to be a true school district. We wanted to have every child have the opportunity to experience a very rigorous experience that would give them a highly competitive advantage when they graduated, when they left our system. So we started to define our why. And part of our why, and we go back to this again and again, our superintendent, Dr. Don Haddad, said that this should be a place where your education doesn't depend upon your zip code or the master schedule. And we know, if you're from high school, how that master schedule drives everything. We didn't want to level the playing field. We wanted to elevate the playing field for all of our participants in St. Vrain Valley. So one of the priorities, I mentioned 5 priorities, one of the things that we started on, and it doesn't have a lot to do with digital yet, is that we wanted to really develop a guaranteed and viable curriculum for our school district, across the school. Again, remember that idea of we wanted a highly rigorous experience. We also wanted to define the what for our teachers, because they were so busy trying to figure out what they should teach. They didn't have a lot of time to do the thing that the magic at, the instructional piece of it. Looking at data, making adjustments. That is so important. So we as a district went out to define the what, this guaranteed and viable curriculum. I can describe the process to you at some point, maybe tonight around our fireside chat or something, but the first iteration of us took us 2 full years to do it. And then teachers started diving in. It was a very collaborative process. And now teachers come into our district and they see this guaranteed and viable curriculum, and it's not a textbook. I'll tell you that right now. Many people say that, absolutely, thanks Leon, it's not a textbook. We have new teachers coming in and they are blown away that this resource is available to them, so they can really concentrate on instruction. So that's the first piece that we did. And I know some people don't always agree with this, but this was part of our visioning piece too. If you build it, they will come. We don't like to mandate lots of things. It's very top down. As a teacher, As an assistant principal, I didn't like that. I wanted to be independent. I wanted to have a say in my environment. So we worked really hard on our vision and our tools piece, the tools for our teaching staff, so that they would want to come to this vision. Not that they had to. We've had several districts around our area that have said, we are the new blended learning district and every teacher will do it. Well, guess what? It fell flat on its face. Get a really compelling vision, provide resources for it. We found it works very well for us. The next thing we do is we wanted to work on student choice. We created, and this is just at the high school level, all of these instructional focus academies. And throughout all these, some commonalities are, one, they're pathways. And all these pathways will try and land a student in a career. They have concurrent enrollment, so they get high school and college credit as they go through. In almost every case, they get some type of industry certification, which is huge. And we pay for it all. We pay for all the college credits. Two I want to talk about, one you see up there called P-TECH. P-TECH is a three-way partnership with a higher institute, our school district, and an ongoing funding source for technology. But we wanted to make sure that we did it correctly and that we weren't just putting devices in front of kids and without any plan. So we spent a full year engaging our community to answer these first two questions. What type of action should instructional technology support? And the second is, what are the attributes our learning environment should have? Those are the things you need to decide before you talk about technology integration. How will technology integration support those two questions? And it was funny because when we first started, we literally had teachers bringing the devices they wanted. They'd already decided. They brought and said, we want this. We had to back them up and say, let's look at what we want to have in our school systems first. Again, emphasizing a systems approach. And all of our, remember I talked about the Guaranteed Viable Curriculum? It's over 150 mentions in every subject area of technology. And that was very intentional. Now, we know if you're a state that has adopted Common Core, that's part of it. They're in there. But we are very intentional in art, music, PE, all the different subjects that we had technology integration built in. It had a curricular purpose. We just didn't want to throw devices in front of kids. This is really what came out of all that work. We wanted students to have the opportunity to have tools where they could learn to collaborate, they could produce things, they could be problem solvers, they could explore concepts and content. Content's still important, but what are you going to do with the content? That's where it's more important than ever before. So for the history teacher, and I'm a recovering social studies teacher myself, so I get it. Yeah, that war, that obscure war, it might be important. But really, what are you going to learn through history that you can apply to today's situation? And how can you look up what's going on? Those are just some examples, and I'm sure you guys have better ones than I'm coming right now. We also use, this is an unofficial, this is my department's mission statement. Everything that we look at, we compare it up to this. Does this meet the muster of what we're trying to do with our students? Literally. We also want to amplify. Technology is a great amplifier for everything that we can do in our schools, if it's done thoughtfully and correct. It will also, as all of you know in this room, amplify some really bad stuff too. If we got folks that have classroom management problems, whew, Lord have mercy, when those iPads or whatever device you have hit. We see it as opening up the world to our students as part of that rigorous experience that we want them to have. Personalized learning for me really is about choice right now, because I think it's until the technology evolves, and Leonie and I had a panel had a great discussion this morning about this. Until it starts to evolve a little bit more, I think for us it has to do a lot about student choice and being able to explore things in different lights. We, as many of you do, we are absolutely committed to blended learning. And you'll see at the center of that, it's about student-centered learning. Now that's a big paradigm shift from the old model of doing things, kind of like what you're experiencing right now, the sit and get. But you'll see at the bottom, transform class time, and that's what we're looking for. We put content online, as many of you do, through a learning management system. They're able to access it 24/7. We want to extend the school day. They can go at their own pace. They can be in their own place for that to happen. They can go as fast or as slow as they want. We ask our teachers to build an informative assessment, and then that data is populated through our learning management system for the teacher to see. The teacher is no longer on the stage. They are the facilitator of this. Again, the student is the center, and this is a huge paradigm shift. You guys are going through it, I'm sure. This is different for our teachers. Remember that? What are you afraid of? This is part of it. But when we do these type of things, we can start to really see project-based learning coming through. We can see design challenges, lit circles, hands-on inquiry. And think about this. Remember I talked about that formative assessment? They're able then to get teacher support the next day. And this is at the high school level as well. This is at all levels that we do. This took us a while to get towards. The first time that we asked teachers, we've got this professional development model for blended learning, I had 6 teachers sign up for it. 6 teachers. Today, we have 2 different models. One is a cohort of teachers that meet across the district on a monthly basis, get instruction, talk about them. I have 130 teachers in that one. We also have online classes that they are able to get badging through. We have 30 teachers in that. So we have 160 teachers just this year. It grew slowly. Build it, and they will come. This year, we also opened up a innovation center, 50,000 square feet. Students come to work on a makerspaces. We have an Apple Tech repair, so we can repair some of our own devices. People from the community come in, get their all their laptops or iPads repaired by our students. We then charge money for it. It's a revenue stream. We have a unmanned flying aircraft facility there where they not only do we fly the drones, they make their own drones, an unmanned aircraft. And in fact, I just approved a course last night for simulation for flying. It made me very nervous. It's probably going to make my superintendent really nervous. But those are some types of things that we've been able to evolve into. Now, I think Robin stole this from me, but because we don't want to move from this, the way I experienced education, to basically this. Right? This is just replacing that worksheet with an electronic worksheet. Now there's some, I know, even in our district, there's some that still pine for these days of kids in straight rows, paying attention, that type of thing. So here's part of the how, real quickly. And this is so important. You're not going to be able to see everything on this, but I want you to know this is so complex, and you've got to work through it in part of the how. This is just about for our iPad distribution that we created for schools. Yeah, so this is just a flow chart. Go through these steps, otherwise you're going to have problems on your hands. The one at the top is just about before distribution. Over here is iPad distribution. This is during the school year, and this one has to do with checkout. That's part of the how. That you guys we've all, and we had to learn this the hard way. And I can share this with you so you can really read it. This is something that we have to think about. Those part of that how piece that as leaders we've got to be able to communicate. The other thing is, what does this look like when you go through this? We came up with our 6 essentials: shared leadership, family community partnerships, device operations, and support. And we provided professional development for all of these. What do the learning habits look like in a digital environment? What's Tier 1 instruction? It changes Tier 1 instruction a lot. And what are some of the student agency and learning mindsets? We're still working on number 6. These are some of the things that we had to provide for our schools so that they could see this, so they could experience it, and we provided professional development around all 6 of those components. Multiple opportunities for professional development. And don't just think one model works. We have online classes. We have get-together classes. We have cohorts. Every opportunity we can get to help our teachers make this transition is huge. One of the fun ones we do is we run a Camp iPad. It's 1 week out of the year. We're getting now neighboring districts that are sending their teachers to us for this. A lot of our teachers do the training now, and is that cool? Man, my chest kind of puffs up when I see that we are now providing the training for this. Ladies and gentlemen, now we have the top 5. I just wanted to recap real quick. Assess your current practices, define your why, remember your actions and attributes, have that plan for transition. That's part of the how, and have a plan for a sustained professional development. One other thing when you think about educational redesign I want to talk about is messaging. In the state of Colorado, we are near the bottom of all of the United States in funding. Near the bottom. And you think to yourself, wait a second, Colorado, you have all these high-tech industries, you have a great recreational skiing, hunting, fishing, we're growing like crazy, we get great sales revenue through the taxes we make on the sale of Doritos. Some of you guys caught on to that one, good, good. But our communities won't support increasing. We just went through there was a very well-intended ballot in November for increased school funding, went down in flames. We predicted it in our district. Part of it is the messaging we're giving out to our communities. We want this to decrease class size. We want this so we can keep art, music, and PE. Could you imagine if Apple came out and said, will you give us millions and millions of dollars, and we think in a couple years we'll have a good product out? It wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. We've got to change the narrative that we're giving to our community. We've got to say, here's what we are doing for you. We've got to say a strong school system will be the driver of a vibrant economy in your community. A strong school system will reduce crime rates. A strong school system will increase your property values. That we get people will buy in. Retired people, everybody will do that. We need to change our messaging and our narrative. I've got a quick video that was produced in my district that it kind of sums us up better than what I'm doing right now.
Public education is one of the greatest success stories in American history. Public school graduates are some of our nation's finest doctors, first responders, elected officials, business leaders, educators, and hardworking members of American manufacturing and service industries. K-12 education drives transformation and change, positively impacts economic growth, supports public safety and national security, and produces leaders who guide the direction of our communities, state, and nation. But this is not the story we hear in the local and national narrative about public schools. From the media to organizational brands to the way we as educators talk about our schools, the conversation about public education focuses on deficits, perceived inadequacies, and a broken system. We need to be like other industries, shaping positive, lasting opinions of our product, fostering support for current and future generations, and focusing on how we bring value to the lives of Coloradoans. To jumpstart this effort, a group of Colorado districts and organizations has created a grassroots campaign called Our Schools, Our Community. This campaign is designed to redirect the narrative to accurately reflect the powerful and numerous achievements of our public schools through real stories about students and staff, aligned messaging, and supportive yet flexible branding. We need all of Colorado to work together to change the conversation around public schools in our state. After all, they're our schools and they drive our community.
That will help. It's helped. In our district, we've passed mill levy after mill levy. It's what it's called in Colorado, bond after bond. and we really engaged our community in part of this. We've got to take a more aggressive stance with this. This is what is, I took this was on a refrigerator in our IT department, and I thought it was great. Because we need to become the storm that is focusing in on the power of public education. 90% of our kids are in public education. We have the strongest economy in the world, and yet we're hearing that we're not doing a great job. It's not congruent. We've got to get this out here. We need to become the storm with this. I wanted to share with you my contact information for selfish purposes, because every time I get to talk with folks, I learn so much, and I use the Harry Wong method of CASE, copy and steal everything. So please call me up, send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. Maybe we can talk a little bit tonight. And remember, we're really preparing our students for that competitive advantage as they go out there. Thank you.